Should be good. I'm all paranoid because like one of my podcasts, I didn't get the video going. But hey, Browning, thanks for joining me, dude. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Right on, man.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
Am I yelling at you? Is the mic coming in a little loud?
No, it sounds pretty good.
All right, yeah, maybe I'll just leave it there. I think it's all right. Gotta watch the levels. But yeah, a little background, man. I mean, you grew up here in the Bitterroot, and then you went to Bozeman for the last like 20. How long you been in Bozeman?
I don't know. I'd have to do the math, but yeah, I grew up in the Bitterroot. I went to Corvallis High School, graduated there, and then went on up to UM in Missoula.
For
Spent
school?
some time there in school, yeah. School of Forestry.
Yeah.
And after that, I spent some time in Big Sky and Bozeman. So, yeah, I guess almost the last 20 years, yeah, Big Sky and Bozeman.
Dang.
So, but I was back and forth. I was in Missoula for school right out of high school, and then I went to Big Sky for like 7 years, and then I told myself I needed to get back to college to get my bachelor's degree. So, in 2013 is when I finished up my bachelor's degree, and then I moved right back to Big Sky, ski bumming up there.
So in 2013, you came back to UM?
Yeah, it would have been in 2011, so I had 2 more years left for my bachelor's. So in 2011, I guess it was when we lost something.
Lost the juice.
Take a little
Take a little pause.
commercial break here.
Yeah.
We could start over too.
Yeah, we just do a little pause. I don't know why that shut off on us.
It almost sounded like my sound went down a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, I was just I was playing with it a
you
little
did?
bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shit, the
Yeah, we're
math
back
here.
on.
When did I?
I don't know. Oh, we're back
It
on.
was 2013 when I graduated, so it would have been 2 more years left on my degree. So like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
I don't know why that died, but we're back live, man. I'll let me
Be back on?
Yeah, I'm gonna sync us up real quick. Or shit, I can just get this out, man. We'll just keep rolling.
We back on?
Back on, good to go. I don't know why that. Technical difficulties, growing pains of tech.
That's okay.
So yeah, 2013. You said
That's when I finished up my bachelor's degree. Yep, UM School of Forestry. Ended up with a recreation management degree. So they call it PTRM now, Parks Tourism, Recreation Management. And they have a couple different emphasis. There's nature-based tourism and natural resource management. So it's kind of more the outfitter guide. I want to go into that type of, guiding and hunting and that kind of outfit, or the nature-based or natural resource management stuff was more, forestry, recreation type stuff. So that's what I went into, is
nice
natural
man.
resource management.
Yeah, man, great job, and it's been nice having you around. All the work we've been doing together, and with rec stuff. Well, it seems like every time we hang out, man, you got like a different like crazy adventure story, about saving a one-legged cyclist dude's life, and
Well, over the years, the stories start adding up. You only remember the good ones or some of the bad ones, depending. But yeah,
I think I told the story a few times, so apologies to people who've heard it. But like, I had a professor in college who would always say that too. He's like, "Man, you're gonna have this perfect day on the beach. How are you gonna remember that?" He's like, "I love those bad days because I'm never gonna forget them." And he showed me this video of him out on this beach in the Bering Strait, in Alaska, and wind was howling, and he's running the video. And video camera, whatever he had, and tents are flying around. People are chasing their gear and their tents, and just gnarly, whipping weather, just blowing rain and coming off the ocean too, and he's just laughing and having a good time, and recording it. And he's like, "Check this out, one of the best days of my life." And I was like, "You're a wild animal," but now I get it though, man. After like especially being in fire, and like, man, I mean, you remember some of those like beautiful, good deal fires, but like those ones that are just gnarly, just kicking your butt the whole time, man. Like, you'll never forget those ones.
felt like they're always kicking your butt, but some are worse than others. I haven't been on a lot of fires. That wasn't really my main job, but I've spent a few rolls out there, chopping it up with these kids,
Yeah, exactly.
When they knew how old I was, they couldn't believe it, but,
Yeah, man, you look pretty young and you stay fit, man. That's key to it, dude. Fountain of youth, staying active.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. You just got to stay active.
Yeah, man, it definitely keeps you young. I notice it with me. Like in my knee, it'll start aching if I've been like in the winter if I'm not as active. I can start feeling like going upstairs. I start feeling like a little more ache in my right knee, and I think it's just arthritis trying to creep in, man. You know, the old saying, "Motion is the body's lotion."
There you go.
Yeah.
Just gotta do what you love.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Um, so then you got in the rec program out of school and you went to Ennis, right? You're in.
Well, so yeah, right out of school in 2013, started applying for jobs. Jumped on USA Jobs and started jumping through hoops. And one of the first people to call me was the rec manager out of Dillon for the Bureau of Land Management, and so his name Rick Waldrop. He's longtime recreation manager for the BLM. He came from Nevada before that, and then he spent tons of time in Dillon and working in the program there. And I got my first federal job over there in Dillon. I spent 2 summers working in the rec program over there as recreation technician. Most of what I was doing was travel management stuff, so a lot of OHV off-road. I was doing a lot of GIS mapping and sign inventory, so they're sort of updating the travel management maps, road inventories, and sign inventories, so just basically GIS and GPS, a bunch of points on a map, and documenting all the signage and roads that are out there.
Yeah, and BLM's got a ton of ground out there, don't they?
That zone's like over 1 million acres.
Jeez.
So
yeah, I know. I helped out with a lot of BLM burns in that country, so I kind of got a little idea of it. It's vast, man. Dillon's super cool. I like Dillon a lot.
Yeah, there's so many different zones. Like it was cool. That was a great place to start. Just spend a ton of time driving around every little valley you can think of down there, and found out about the Centennial Valley. So if anyone knows about that, I don't want to talk too much about these cool places, but
I know that's a downside.
Most people in this type of business know about the Centennial Valley. So
yeah, anyone who's been out in the outdoors, hunters and recreation folks, and there's even a race that my little brother runs in that finishes in the Centennial Valley. Because that's the first time I heard about it is when he was doing this race. You got enough room over there?
Yeah, what race was that?
Oh, I want to say Headwaters Relay, I think. Do you know about it?
Nah.
I want to say, I'm trying to think where it starts. It's like in Pony or Harrison, I think. No, maybe I'm wrong here. But it goes over the tobacco roots and then ends in the Centennial Valley. I want to say like it. I'm trying to think of how the route goes. Because I think it's like all backcountry. So I think you go, I don't know, say start in Harrison. I wish I remembered this. But folks can look it up. Anyway, so you start on the east side of the tobacco roots, go over like into South Boulder and over Brownback Trailhead, I think, and then it pops you out on the Whitehall side in Waterloo. And then I think you cruise up towards Twin Bridges or down because you're heading south. And then you go through like Alder into Ruby, into the Ruby Valley. And I want to see you like take all those back roads. And eventually somehow it connects into Centennial Valley there. And so the relay works is like you have a team of like 4 or 5 folks. And I think you run like 4 or 5 miles out of whack, I think. So a bunch of long distance folks. And it sounds like a blast. Sounds like a really good time. So my little brother's done that quite a few times now.
That was a long ways.
It was a long ways, yeah. Like it was kind of cool because like his high school, he went to Manhattan, and they had a lot of really good, strong, long distance runners, and they put together a team. They had a cool name for it too, and I'm blanking on that as well. I haven't thought about this in a long time, so it's not real fresh in my head. But I want to say they were like back-to-back champs of that thing or
nice,
something like that. Yeah.
You ever heard of the Eco Challenge races?
No, what's that about?
Those are like the super long endurance races.
Oh, Eco
where
like ultra marathons, like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like an ultra marathon put together with just about everything. They were multiple day type situations where
that's how this is.
You start off as a group of 4. I think it was 3 men, 1 woman. So
it's like the requirement. Like
to start out. You had to have 1 female, I think, on the team. But would just race across the mountains. You know, there was sort of a route. You started in one spot and you had to hit these checkpoints, but it didn't really matter where you went. You just had to hit the checkpoints and get there. But they're just all kinds. They do them all over the world. For a long time, they were starting to gain a lot of popularity. And they did one, I don't think it was an eco challenge, but it was something similar to one of those big races where all the big sponsored racers were there. They did it in Big Sky.
Oh, really?
It started in Big Sky and ended in Big Sky, but all I can remember is, like, you know, run up the peak to the summit, down the other side, you know, down to the river, jump in the river and basically canoe, kayak, or whatever down the river as far as you could, get to another checkpoint, run up and over the Gallatins to the Yellowstone Valley, you know, Paradise Valley, Yellowstone River. Take that mountain bike or bike down Paradise Valley up to the Crazies, run across the Crazies and snowshoe, whatever it was, and then down the Bridgers and then back around to Big Sky.
Jeez, man.
But that was just like a typical type of one of these races, you know, and it was like starting to get really, really popular.
So it's not just running, like there's other things
I wasn't really running. This was like a adventure race with hiking, mountain biking, kayaking, snowshoeing, just whatever sort of was the next phase of the race that came up, and the race planners would mix that all in. So you had to be just dialed.
Dang,
you know.
That sounds really cool.
It was pretty cool. I was like starting to get into like, oh man, I wish I could do this, you know.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, this is probably who knows how many years ago, 10, 20 years ago, when I was like sort of getting into that. And the best guys that were winning it were like in their late 30s, early 40s.
Oh, hey, that's
so
us,
like,
right?
oh man, these old guys
Yeah.
kicking ass. And now I'm one of those old guys like, actually I feel pretty good at this age. So I can see how those guys were kicking ass and smoking the 20, 30-year-olds.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so. I'm with you, dude. I think you kind of learn how to support your body better, right? Like as a young 20-year-old, and it almost happened to me actually in rookie training. I wasn't hydrating and taking electrolytes and just fueling my body right. And then so the next thing I know, I'm about tits up on the first day, you know, because I just got behind the hydration curve, you know. So definitely, I think as you're older, you get a little smarter. You might I might be a little slower now, but I think I'm better at like managing my systems and keeping everything online while going through something grueling.
Never knew. You could get a little better and stronger the older you get.
Yeah,
I mean, at some point, you know, you're not gonna be able to keep up with the 20s and 30s, but
yeah,
it was impressive to see some of these guys, what I thought at the time was old, you know, that they were kicking ass. But yeah, endurance athletes are something else, and you know, these guys were long distance runners, and world class mountain bikers that were on those winning teams. But it's just impressive.
Yeah,
what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, and the pain tolerance, right? People don't think about. I don't think like the average person thinks about running being like a tough sport, but it is so tough, man. Like, it is a different kind of pain when you're running long distance, you know?
I'd rather ride a bike.
Yeah, same, dude. I'd rather sprint and do like. I mean, those workouts can be kind of grueling in their own, you know, way, but man, a long distance, man, like you gotta have your brain right for that stuff, you know.
It's definitely a different beast for sure.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of races, though, I forgot to bring this in your intro, so my apologies. But BMX racer, right?
Oh well, yeah.
Bike racer. Is it BMX or is it different?
BMX, yeah, just little bikes, 20-inch rims or 24-inch rims, and so yeah, I used to race as a teenager in high school, and you know, we used to do a lot of bike riding. You know, when I grew up on a dirt road. So, you know, skateboarding wasn't really an option.
Yeah, same.
You know, back then, because it would have been 90s, mid-90s, skateboarding was still a crime back then.
Oh, true. Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people like, don't skate here, don't do this, don't grind on that, don't jump these stairs. You know, it was always sort of like the punk kid. There wasn't skate parks. There wasn't much of that going on back then. You know, 80s and 90s, it you know, everything was a crime, right? Skateboarding is not a crime. You remember that bumper sticker or whatever?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny. Yeah,
I did a lot more biking than I did skating.
Yeah, I was kind of the same boat, man. My folks live way out of town on a really, really bad dirt road, so Yeah, wanted to get more into mountain biking at that point. I had to skateboard in like junior high, and I'd mess around after school. But even the sidewalks in Whitehall are pretty rough. And now there's this beautiful skate park in Whitehall. Tiny little Whitehall.
Yeah, the skate park's like every little town now.
Yeah,
There's a big push.
It's cool to see.
Jeff
man.
Ament, Skate Army. Jeff Ament, he lives in Missoula.
Oh.
He's the bass player for Pearl Jam.
Oh, really?
So he's the big push behind all these skate parks and all these little towns. He kicks in matching funds typically for all these towns and associations that are trying to get skate parks, and he'll pretty much throw down $100,000 to match these other groups to try to build these skate parks. And I'm pretty sure every new skate park that's ever been built in Montana in the last 10 years has got his name on it somehow. So he's a big push for that, So he's given back to those communities, I guess, and he's always been a long-time skateboarder. And, he's really successful with his music career. So, and he skates around Missoula all the time, and
really?
I've seen him. I used to work for the city of Missoula, and I was doing some maintenance over at Fort Missoula, and he just happened to be walking by with his dogs, and I knew who he was and knew what he looked like. And I don't know, I might have just said, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" And he just kept going, but like I knew that was him. And a buddy of mine's a longtime bass player, and he always talked about him and how he lived he's got a house right outside Missoula. So
cool.
He's lived there for a long time. So
dang, what a cool cause, man! Like that, because I was just gonna say even the little skate park in Whitehall, I think there was like a handful of us like playing around with skateboards when I was in junior high, and most of them were folks who lived in town, but that skate park is always busy when I was going through Whitehall. It's been a while, but like right after it was built, for sure, that thing was always like, had folks mess around, either like on bikes or a few on skateboards, and like some other friends just kind of kicking around there and hanging, so it gives a lot of the young folks something to do,
Place to go, something to do, being outside.
Being outside is a huge part right now, What's that? What were you calling it? The nature deficit disorder?
Yeah, it's a thing, there's, when I was studying rec management, this kind of things come up, and one of those things that really resonated with me was this idea of nature deficit disorder and what was happening at the time. That was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, all that time, like smartphones. Well, within the last 20 years, basically, but within the last probably decade, last dozen years, phones really started to pick up screen time. So this guy came up with this thing, nature deficit disorder, and it was a lot of it just like kids are replacing their outside time with screens. And I should look up the definition of it here just so we can get a better idea, but it's basically taken away from any time outside.
Yeah.
And it's leading to obesity and depression and a lot of things that,
Yeah, that humans need in life: fresh air, vitamin D from the sun, interaction, even like dirt, like getting in some soil, like I think it's super important, especially for when you're growing up. Yeah, it's bad. It's tough because like I get it too a little bit, man. Like I haven't played video games in years, but when I see like commercials for them, it's like, geez, man, like I can definitely see where it could get you, There's games like World of Warcraft, when it first came out, we're hooking everybody,
Yeah, I'm not a big gamer. Back in the day, the coolest game I thought was out was 007 for
N64.
Nintendo 64. Yeah,
the GoldenEye one, I think, right?
Play 4-player. Yeah, and go shoot 'em up on paintball mode and play with your buddies. And so, like, at that time, it was really cool to have one of those. That was probably the only game I ever really got into, was that, just playing with buddies all night long. But I was more into, all the fun stuff outside. I didn't really spend much time inside. I was always kicking a soccer ball around or riding bikes or, skiing or trying to snowboard or doing fun stuff like that. And
yeah,
probably just because, my dad used to spend a lot of time outside as a outfitter and guide, and he ran around the Frank Church for a long, long time. And so growing up, it was kind of let's go down to the river and do some fishing, and let's go hunting. And, I never really got super into hunting, but I would do it.
Yeah.
And fishing and stuff like that. But just spending time outside, camping and hiking, and say my dad's all hardcore about it or anything, but it sort of just got me into the outdoors, got me outside. And growing up in Montana, there's not a lot of those superficial things to do. You can't go to theme parks. You don't go to malls very often. I mean, sure, the mall in Missoula is okay, but it's nothing like the cities have.
No.
So it was more like what do you got to do to get outside? So you're finding things to do.
Yeah, because everyone would go to Silverwood or the one in Utah. I don't know if that one's still around. In Salt Lake. Those are the
the one in
parks.
Salt Lake Lagoon is still there.
Lagoon, yeah.
I've never been, but drive by there, I was like, oh, that was cool. But Silverwood, I've been to that a couple times as a kid. My parents took me over there and everything.
Cool.
But
yeah, I've never been to that one either.
It was never anything like I always wanted to do. But
yeah, same. That's where I was different too. Like I never had the desire to go to Disneyland or Disney World as a kid growing up. I remember, some of my family. I want to say my grandma and aunt and uncle or something all went one time when I was in grade school. And my aunt really likes Disneyland, but I was or Disney World one too, and it never really had much desire to go there even as a kid. Like you said, I'd rather be out in the woods doing something else. Boy Scouts helped, I think. I was in Boy Scouts as a kid.
Oh,
you were in Boy Scouts too, weren't you?
No, I never did Boy Scouts.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. No, never. I guess I never got signed up for it. I was just sort of my own Boy Scout,
Yeah. Well, you were kind of
you're doing it on my own. Yeah.
Yeah, with your dad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask my folks why I was never into that. But I did, 4-H. I did some sheep shows. My mom used to raise sheep and stuff, so we would do that and had a little farm and stuff. So I did that a few years. And rode some horses here and there and things like that, but
yeah, the horses, man. We had horses growing up, dude, and it's a shame about kind of this rural development too. Is it's taking a lot of hay ground away and hay's going up in price, and then having these hot summers, and it just seems like we're not getting the hay production anymore. So the price is going up.
Price is going way up.
Yeah, so it's hard to have your own horse anymore, especially a blue collar person.
Yeah, it's, we could talk about, water use and growing hay in Montana, but that's a whole nother podcast,
Yeah,
but,
the next one.
We could talk about, farmers and ranchers stealing water from our rivers, but I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a tough subject, but I think we talked about I got to have that firsthand with the Smith River, I was going to float it, and then they got that drought out there in that country by Great Falls, and as soon as that happened, they had to start hammering the fields with water and drains the Smith down pretty fast. So
yeah, the other one is the old Jefferson where you grew up. That gets pretty low.
It does. There's a little mud hole at the end of the season.
Yeah, and there's probably more water going through your big ditch to agriculture than there is actually in the main stem of the river. But
especially in some spots. But that's probably why the otters are angry.
The old
attack otters.
Yeah.
That's a wild story. That happened this summer, didn't it?
Yeah, that happened this summer. And I've heard of one other time. I worked on the Madison River for a long time, but before I started working out there on the Madison, I heard about an angry otter chewing on a tuber, floating down and chewing them up. But this story seems to be the mega.
Yeah, the
mega otter.
Yeah, dude. It does, because the way that the story came, when the story came out and the gal was recalling it, the one who seemed like took the most damage, because it seemed like it got all three of the gals that were floating. Maybe there was more, but I think it was three. And that one in deep enough water where she couldn't touch, and the thing just kept coming back, and she was having a hard time fighting it off. And she did a good enough job, because it she was able to walk away from it. But it was chewing on her face, and all kind her hands were all beat up and stuff.
Yeah, I saw some of those photos, and that's just brutal. I just
poor
couldn't imagine that happening. I mean, just unexpected situation like that, and all of a sudden you're fighting for your life, I guess. What is going on? And Otter had the upper hand, right?
I was gonna say, in its environment.
You're in his environment, her environment, whatever that otter thing was. But man, tore him up. There's a heck of a story, And thank goodness, Gallatin County Search and Rescue is probably one of the top search and rescue teams in the country. I mean, they're top notch, and they put a lot of time and energy into their training, and when you call them for help, they'll be there. And they even help Madison County and Park County, because Gallatin County Search and Rescue has a helicopter and an alpine team and a technical ropes team, and so they get called on a lot of calls to help.
With that much capability, I guess you'd say, man, expertise, like that's huge, especially for that country. A lot of folks getting caught in that alpine country, especially when remember that fellow had that reward or whatever, that like.
The Forrest Finn.
Yeah.
Like the whole treasure hunt thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was wild.
I'm glad that's over, actually, because
me too.
Recreation managers and people at the agencies are like starting to go mad because of all these people showing up looking for these places, and like, especially in Yellowstone Park or national parks, I think 2 or 3 people died looking for
fell off a cliff
for the deal, and like they're trying to get all these clues because I guess Forrest Finn used to work in Yellowstone, and they were just trying to track down all this stuff where they thought it was, and people put themselves in really, really sticky situations, like climbing on the side of cliffs and falling off, or I think there was a story, a guy like jumped in a river or something, or fell in a river and got swept away. And we had people out on the Madison River and in the Bear Trap Canyon wilderness area scrambling around looking for this stuff, and people asking us questions when we're out in the field if we knew anything, and we were finding places where people were digging up natural resources and all that kind of stuff, where they're tearing up public land just because they're looking for this dude's treasure, and there was nowhere to be found in Montana. I think it was found in New Mexico.
Oh, really?
Santa Fe.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
I think I'd be wrong on that, but it wasn't found in Montana.
Makes the story better. You know what I'm saying? Then people have to track it down if we're not right,
I always wondered if it even was real, but apparently it was. So, but the backstory of the guy, like, I don't know, he used to be like an archaeologist and stuff, and so some people say he was kind of shady and might have got some of these treasures, not in the most appropriate ways. But I don't know the whole backstory. But I wasn't about to go looking for it.
No, I mean, like in my romantic story, it was like I was gonna jump this fire, and like I'm parachuting down this cool ridge and like do my PLF, and there would be, right above my head. And I'd be like, boys are rich, and then roll out into the sunset.
All right, I'm just retired.
Yeah, exactly.
No more jumping.
Yeah.
That never happened, though.
No, it never happened. Yeah, I'm still in the grind.
Here we are.
Yeah. Man, what was it? I don't know. I mean, this is far-fetched, but D.B. Cooper, you know the story?
I don't think so.
Wonder if there's a connection there. I mean, if there's like ill means of how he got the money.
What was that?
The D.B. Cooper story?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, he hijacked the airlines back in the 70s or 80s or something. I would say 70s maybe. And they landed somewhere, and it was in the Pacific Northwest, and like Portland or something. I can't remember where it was. But they never caught him, and he demanded like this money and parachute, and they gave him the money in the parachute, and then he had the pilot like fly kind of low and head towards Mexico or something, and they just bailed out somewhere over the forest, and they never found him.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, it's a cool story. Yeah, the Without a Paddle, that movie, they're trying to, if you ever get bored, it's like a comedy where they're trying to find D.B. Cooper and his treasure.
Gotcha.
They have like this map they set up, and they thought it was a smoke jumper because there wasn't a lot of people with like any kind of parachute training back in those days. So they're like, man, it's got to be a smoke jumper. So like they thought like he was from Redmond, Oregon, or NCSB up in Winthrop there. So
they were looking for somebody.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much of those stories, but that's a good one.
Yeah, and I thought maybe I'd find his treasure, on a fire somewhere, just a bag full of money stuffed in a cave somewhere. But
you always hope to find something when you're walking out in the woods, right? You're like, what is the next little thing you're gonna find, or
Well, the part, and I don't know, maybe someone can explain this to me one day, but like the part that like I was always wondering about, there used to be gold like everywhere, and I guess maybe prospectors found it all, but we're always digging, right? Like as fire folks, like, I mean, there's so many folks that are digging in the woods all the time. It's like, how has someone not found like a nugget or something? Like you never hear about any fire folks. Maybe they're just really quiet about it. No one says anything because that'd probably be the smart move. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're just gonna find a nugget there, but you never know.
Yeah, but you're digging all the time.
Digging line,
yeah. And digging cup trenches and stuff, so you can go a little deeper, or maybe just digging a cat hole to, put your business in, you know.
6 inches deep, and you find a 10-pound
Big old
piece of rock.
Big old golden nugget staring at you.
Yeah, I've never been much of a prospector.
Me either, man. I just kind of always figured I'd, slap a Pulaski off one or something. Just catch a little nugget. Even a little one, man. It'd just be kind of cool. Like, hey, I found some gold on a fire one time.
There you go.
But it never happened for me. But,
well, if they, if it wasn't firefighting, right, it'd be called gold mining.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if anyone found any gold, probably,
Everyone would want to be a firefighter if we found a bunch of gold out there, right? Maybe that's the incentive.
Yeah, start hiding gold out there.
There's some gold in those hills.
Yeah, find some kind of vein.
Yeah.
But then I guess cut you off there. You went to Dillon and BLM.
Oh, right, back to working.
Oh, did you ever find the nature?
Yeah, there's some terms out here. This one guy termed it Richard Louves.
Ooh.
And he wrote a book, Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. And just at the top here, it says, nature deficit disorder is a term you may have heard of in recent years. It's a relatively new idea that people, children in particular, who spend less time in nature may suffer a range of physical, psychological, and behavioral problems. And it seems like that's where things are going with, society, that they're glued to screens. And I kind of noted that 10, 12 years ago, when I first started finding out about this stuff when I was studying recreation management, because it was kind of part of the curriculum, and screens were starting to replace time outside, right? Yeah. And teachers are using or still using that technology to replace field trips and spending time outside. And we know at home kids get slapped with a smartphone or a screen right off the bat. It's a babysitting tool now.
Babysitter.
I'm guilty of it,
Yeah, especially when you're out somewhere and, your kid's getting a little restless. You're just like, here, check out this little Disney show, or whatever.
It's just interesting because, all these sort of mental health things are starting to really pop up with kids and even adults, that seems to be more prolific than it ever has been. Yeah. And it sort of correlates with the time frame of technology getting to the point of sucking people in. And now technology is so strong with the way that it adapts to, basically getting people to be addicted. They've got psychiatrists or psychologists and all these people that studied human brains working for the corporations that kick out all this information. So I've been, seeing all the clicks and dings and dongs that come from those apps are just like gambling.
Yeah.
Just like a casino machine or, it's addicting to your mental state. And so you're always going back for the quick fix, and it's just getting more and more. So it's sucking people in. And really, I started seeing more and more kids stuck inside, or more and more kids leaning to video games, and less kids wanting to get outside and do just kick around in the dirt, and just be outside. Because for me, spending time outside is where I feel the most alive.
Yeah, same,
and I feel good connecting to the outdoors, and I think there's something there. So I spend a lot of time outside.
Yeah, me too, man. And all the time, even the winter and stuff. I like the idea, and I probably got this from that professor I mentioned earlier on. Was just being out in the elements. Me and the family drove through the the Arctic vortex last year, and not because we wanted to. It was just that was our trip plan, and we were just hoping that we're trying to skirt it. I think it was going north to south. I think it's typical storm tracking, but we were gonna be ahead of it, and then it was I think it was a day ahead of what they had forecasted originally on the original forecast I looked at. So we kind of got stuck in the middle of it. We got hold up in Rapid City for a while, but it was just kind of cool to be out there in the elements, though, and we were trying to go down this back road near Wall, and it just wasn't turning out. Blizzard was too bad, so we turned back, went to Rapid, and it's just like I was out there and it was negative. Real feel, I think it was like negative 30 or something, and that was like I don't know what the wind chill was, but it was a howling wind, so way cooler than that. And man, I'd never been that kind of cold in my life. You can only be out there for like a couple minutes, and like you're to the bone chilled, and I mean you couldn't survive out in that. And it's just kind of cool to experience it though.
So this Arctic vortex, is that something that you made up, or it was actually a place?
No, the Arctic Vortex was what they're calling the weather event.
I got you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was like, did you find
I
something?
I was in the vortex.
Well, because there's those vortexes
in Sedona.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I heard there might be one up in Columbia Falls.
Oh, really? You
ever been to that weird house that's up there that's like all off kiltered and it's like a vortex house?
Oh, that's in Columbia Falls?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard about like there's another place called like that somewhere around here, and what is it called? Something Zone. Is that the same one?
It might be. I don't know. I don't get too caught up in a lot of those vortexes. I try to avoid them.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Apparently, though, people believe in that stuff and follow the vortexes. I mean, Sedona, Arizona, is a huge like spiritual
crystals
kind of like crystal vortex thing. Yeah, for sure. I got a friend that her mom's like real big into the healing and kind of spiritual. Vortex and kind of it's not religious type of stuff. It's more healing through those like crystals and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's this earthy Mother Nature kind of like almost like religion or spirituality.
Yeah,
I dig it, man. Like whatever gets you out in nature, like
get outside.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great, man. Like I don't know if the vortexes are working, but there's definitely a feel. I mean, you've been to Sedona, huh?
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Yeah, I love it, mostly for climbing.
Yeah, right. All that like sandstone, red rock stuff, and man, it's just cool, man. Like there's something there. You can kind of feel it, I don't know what it is, Like I'm not like going out vortex searching, but I was there on fire, and then I was there for vacation one time, and something different.
It's just a cool place.
It is, man.
It's so different from Montana. I like to vacation down to the southwest and the desert because it's so different from Montana that everything's new, it seems like. And you're like, whoa, what's that? Oh, what's that? And
all the smells and
everything's
the views.
Different. So I like spending a lot of time down there. Yeah.
Me too, and that's probably why that could be part of the reason why it feels like powerful and special to me because of that, right? Like, but there was, I was talking to this archaeologist fella. I want to say it was Jason Nez was his name. He worked for the Grand Canyons, I think, National Park maybe. And he was up there doing like reed stuff on a fire, I think, and he showed us some really cool pictographs and just like gave us a little like rundown of the area when we were on a Type 6 engine down there, and me and some Steve I folks, and it's just cool because he's talking about like the Hopi and the Apache and Yavapai, I want to say, like all these different tribal nations that were living in the area and trading and going through the area, and like how busy it was like not that long ago. It's like, wow, man, that's cool. So I mean, it's been drawing humans forever. It feels like that area,
Yeah, I mean, all the tribes, all the people that are still down there,
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, totally, man. And they all, feel like they're all kind of still drawn to that area, and so maybe there's something there. It seems really cool. I mean, like Havasu Falls isn't that far from there, and Havasu Falls is really awesome on the Havasupai, reservation there.
Yeah, that's one thing I haven't spent much time in that zone. I'd like to go check that out.
Yeah, man, go check it out.
One.
Yeah, that permit's hard to get, but man, it's super cool.
Yeah, especially now, permit systems at national parks are pretty wild.
Man, yeah, it's real hard. That one's ran through the tribe, so it's a little harder because they have to have someone kind of manning the phone, and at least it used to be, and you had to call in, and just usually get a bunch of people just like chain calling. So I get it, man. They get overwhelmed probably real quick, and they just like, as soon as the permits are done, I don't think they answer their phone, so it's hard to get some info on it. But yeah, I think they get hammered in like a 24-hour period, and then they're done dealing with the phone.
Is that for the whole year or for the day or?
I think it's for the whole year. I think
the year, just like
it just opens up for one day.
Up.
Yeah, and, I mean it was supposed to open for like a week, but I think it just fills up in like one day. And I don't know. That was years ago though.
Like, is there cancellations or you can jump in?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Is like, like for us, like with our reservation.gov, recreation.gov, you can get on the cancellation list, like you were saying, and with them though, I mean, if you get through, maybe like you get on, but I think once the books are full, I think they just leave it alone. So like if someone can't make it, I think it's just unfilled permit, bum deal.
Yeah, only a certain amount of people get to go anymore, especially how popular things are. So they only have a certain amount of people that can get in for the year, and that's it. And if you're not the lucky number, then maybe next year.
Does it make it that much sweeter, though?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, kind of seems like it, though, because it's like then it's like this really hard thing. And then when you get there, you just really want to absorb it because you don't know when the next time you'll be in that area. At least that's how I was. I mean, I can't remember how many waterfalls that we ran into. I want to say like 5 right off the bat. Like it's nuts, man. Yeah. 3 like big ones for sure that I can remember, but I think there's like a couple other little ones, and it keeps going. We should have enough time to see them all. I want to say there's like 7 total if you do like the full trail.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, great beautiful world out there, dude. In the recreation world.
Lots to see, right? Yeah, it's, put your phone down and go hike.
Yeah, man. That's dang. We're too early in the podcast to end it there, but that's a good message to send out there.
How long have we been at this here? I don't know, 30 minutes so far?
Yeah, a little over 40
Jumping
minutes,
around a little bit, but
yeah, that's what podcasts are for, man. Yeah, because I got a bunch of stuff just rattling in my brain that since I met you, because I think I said in the beginning, when I first met you, I was like, oh man, all right, this guy's into outdoors and rec and stuff, and like every time we talked, it was like, didn't know about the bike racing until a couple weeks ago, and then your arm was all wrecked.
The old road rash, got to pay to play.
Yeah, man, you left some skin on that track.
Luckily, that was the only thing that happened, but yeah.
And you kind of said earlier, that you used to race, but you still race.
Yeah, it's it's fun. I'm competitive. I don't just roll over. So when I get into something, I try to go as hard as I can, But it's fun. I started back bike racing. I put my daughter on the track when she was 4 years old, and so she started racing on the track at 4 years old, and so she's been out there now 4 years, and we've traveled a bunch of places, and it was really just to get her on a bike so she could learn to ride, and she's really good and got a lot of balance, and just it was cool to see. I put her on a pedal bike at 3, and I took her training wheels off at 3.5. So she was pedaling at 3.5, and then she was racing the BMX track at 4. So kind of pushed her along there, and we've rode a bunch. We've raced in Port Angeles, Washington for a big race over there. We've raced in Salt Lake City for a nationals race, and we've been to a bunch of places in the Northwest just to ride together, and that's been a lot of fun. And so I kind of got back into it when she was in it, so I would take her to the track and just be sitting on the sidelines, and I finally was like, oh, all the other dads and moms are there, like, oh, you should get out there. And of course, borrowed a bike from the track and started racing, and it's like all the rad dads out there trying to chop each other up. And so I'm like, I'm pretty competitive. I think I could do this. And so I got back out there and started riding, and I won a couple of races. I'm like, I should probably get a bike. And so then I bought a bike and raced, and like, I'll go to a bigger race and I'll see how I do there. Went there and did pretty well, and bought another bike. And so now I've got 2.
Oh, nice, dude.
And my daughter's got 2 bikes now too. So we race our class bike, which is the 20-inch rim, and then there's cruiser, which is a 24-inch rim. So there's kind of 2 styles of bikes, and so you can get a chance to race twice.
Yeah.
2 bikes for the day, and so we started racing both of our bikes, and yeah, it's been 4 years now. And this last year, I took it pretty serious and started racing around the Northwest, and qualified for the Northwest Championship, and went to Richland, Washington just a couple weeks ago, and had a rough go when I got there, but it's not fun the first day and the first race. You go out there and you slide out in the first corner and take yourself out, take out some other people, get ran over.
Ooh.
That started the weekend out, and so that was pretty brutal. And that's where
start.
I lost all the skin on my elbow, which is pretty wild because I had elbow pads on, but tore my whole elbow up. So I'm not really sure how that happened, but yeah,
just going so hard.
Yeah, and then I had a tire track across the back of my back, from where this guy ran me over. But, I wear all the gear, so it wasn't too bad. But, starting off a 3-day weekend race with a crash isn't really fun. But turned it around, and, things got a little better throughout the weekend. And by Sunday, things really turned around, and I ended up on the podium on Sunday. So that really helped my points for the overall. So I thought I lost it, but there was still enough points overall to take second for the Northwest for my age group. So that was fun to take home.
That's awesome, man.
Second place overall, and I get to ride the number 2 Gold Cup plate for next year, which is going to be pretty sweet. So
that's really cool,
so pretty
man.
Stoked on that.
Yeah, really, especially took some time off, man, and getting back into it. And I think one of the biggest things I take away from that, man, is that like you're setting this great example for your kid.
Yeah, she can look up to that, and I'd like to see her have a little more grit out there, but she's young, and we're trying like everything with her, and I think that's what's important, is just something to do. She's met a lot of friends out there. I think that's super important, for social skills and just meeting new friends, and now she's got lifelong friends. If she wants to keep doing it, she can. If not, we're moving on to some other stuff already, and that's just life, but we're just trying to stay active, and hopefully started with BMX, and a lot of pro mountain bikers this day and age say they started BMX racing, because that was just the progression, was starting on small bikes and then moved to bigger bikes and into mountain biking. And so really looking forward to getting her legs under her a little bit more, and we can go trail ride and maybe even race mountain bikes somehow, enduro or cross country or even downhill. But, getting back on the bigger bike here eventually, probably going to be a focus for me. So we'll see how it goes. But that's kind of my passion is mountain bike riding. And, I used to race enduro and race cross country a little bit back in college, and then just kind of life took over and didn't keep doing it, and then had the kiddo, and we know how all that goes when you have a kid. Is sort of your time's over, time's done. So I'm trying to find my way now that she's a little older, and find back to those things that I like to do. So I used to rock climb a ton, and through my 20s and in my early 30s, I used to rock climb a ton, and sort of kind of like chasing those sort of adrenaline junkie type sports, like snowboarding and skiing and mountain biking and climbing, especially, is that kind of high level endurance, that kind of
get you out.
You need it all for climbing, really.
Yeah, totally, man. Using different muscle groups and stuff, but kind of like you said, man, like when you first have a kid, you kind of give up some of your freedom and some of the stuff that you do, your hobbies, but I think it all comes back around. Like I think we and you talked about this before, where it's like for the first, I don't know, well, for you it was less because like 3 years, and then your daughter was on a bike already. But I think for a lot of folks, it's like maybe the first 4 or 5 years when you have a kiddo, and then eventually they're mobile and they want to be out. And as long as you, are active yourself still, you can get them back into share the hobbies that you are, passionate about, and they're coming from your genetics, so they'll probably be into the same things. And if not, I mean, they can branch out into other activities, but at least it keeps them active, and then you get to go share your passion with them, man. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to as well, with my kiddos down the road.
Yep. Yeah, just showing them what's up, showing them what's real.
Yeah, man.
Some of the stuff they see on TV and on these screens isn't really real, so sticking to being outside.
Yeah.
If you show them the right ways, and hopefully those they'll go down those same avenues and stuff that we're going down, and
absolutely. At least show them the doors, right, and then give them the tools.
Drag them along if they like it or not. Because what I've noticed with the kiddo, when you take her outside and get her going and wear her out, she sleeps a lot better.
Yeah, right.
So
if you sleep better, then it helps your mood and your health and immune system and all that.
Yep. Gets back to all this screen time and stuff, and just trying to disconnect from these phones. It's rough.
Well, yeah, if all the studies that I've seen are correct about the blue light, and the blue light keeping you awake, and then if you do end up going to sleep, you're probably not falling as deep asleep because you get blasted with this blue light for so long. And usually it's for anybody who's got any kind of electronics, usually sit down, watch some TV, the news, your phone or whatever right before you go to bed. And been trying to be a lot more cognizant of that, just open a book, you know, and I sleep way better if I can open a book for about like, usually I'm shooting for a half hour of reading time, and usually like 10 minutes in, I'm about done, even if it's a really good book. But I sleep like a rock. Yeah, I sleep so much better after that, you know, and versus like scrolling through Instagram or, you know, whatever, you know, Craigslist, you know, looking for stuff on there, you know. I'm always like shopping for something, you know.
They find a way to keep you hooked, right? Like, I mean, it just seems like they're just always trying to keep you on the screen. The more time you spend on the screen, the more stuff you buy, the more, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just double-edged sword, right? Like, our society's moving towards technology, but also it's taken away from the core values of people's families and spending more time outside and
being social.
Being social. And so it seems like, you know, these kids these days can barely hold a conversation. They don't want to go out in public. They don't like groups of people. And I don't know. It's just, that's not how I was raised. I was raised outside. And so I'm trying to keep with that, you know, and not get sucked in.
Yeah, no, same, dude. Like, I got fortunate enough to grow up with, you know, really active dad and family, and you know, both my parents really, and the whole family are super active. And then we had horses, and we were going to moxies and rodeos and all that, you know, kind of fun horse things that people do, you know, just go on rides, hunting, all that stuff, you know. And it was good because it's a community, man, of like really good folks, you know, all these horse people, because you know, you got to take care of your horse, and you got to care for something else besides you, you know, because if you don't take care of your horse, it's not going to take care of you. So you know, like those lessons of like, you know, going on a long ride or out for a long hunt, you know, riding a horse and coming back and like making sure you tend to the horse before you tend to yourself. And, you know, like, I don't think a lot of people get that anymore. You know, it's like, I'll be starving, but I'm like, I know I gotta get the saddle off, you know, get this horse brushed down, get him fed, make sure he has water and taken care of before, you know, I go and take care of myself, even though I'd be dead tired sometimes. I mean, I'm not just riding, I'm out there hiking a lot of times too, you know, but, and as a kid, you're like fighting it so hard, but as an adult, it's not as bad, you know. You're like, man, make sure, you know, old Cody or whoever, you know, is doing good here before, you know, I go take care of myself, you know.
Is that the name of your horse?
Yeah, Cody's, yeah, my brother kind of took him over lately and turned him into a real horse. He was pretty young when I was messing with him, and then my brother's a vet and does he goes and helps out with a lot of brandings, that old school, like roping, you know, and branding, and then he's got another horse that he let some cowboys use for going to like cowboy camp. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like basically just like tending some cows for the summer and in the mountains. And he got a ton of miles on his other horse, Chuck. And then we got this other pretty good sized horse, Pete, and he's a buckskin. He's beautiful, and he's a good ride too. So got pretty lucky. We got some good horses, and my dad and my brother have been keeping up with them pretty good. So which keeps me from having to pay for hay. So go to Whitehall and get to ride, you know.
Yeah, that horse stuff, man. I don't know. I just try to stay away from those horses. They have their own.
They do, man. But yeah, when you get one that's like on the same page as you, though, man, it's like this kindred spirit thing. You know, it's powerful stuff, man. Like even like today, you know, like Cody's pretty much my little brother's horse now, but like he kind of has that with like the whole family. But he's like, he comes, you don't have to, if you want him, you don't have to get like a halter and a lead rope. You just go out there and he comes right to you, and he'll follow you right to the hitching post, and then then we usually throw stuff on him in case a car comes down the road or something. But other than that, I mean, you pretty much could like saddle him and he just stand there without even like a halter and a lead rope. You know, he's just that kind of like awesome horse. I don't know if you do it for everybody. You probably would. Maybe just that friendly, but you know, like it just feels like there's a connection there. But I haven't messed with horses in forever, so I mean,
yeah, I grew up around them and stuff.
Yeah, 'cause your mom's into horses, right?
Yeah, my mom's got some. She's downsized to ponies and miniature mules, and so. But you know, back in the day, I used to ride a little bit, and you know, did a little bit of Western, and did some English jumping, and
oh really,
did pony club.
You got some
vaulting,
skill, dude. If you're doing that stuff, you got some skill.
I wasn't that good at it, but you know, I've been kicked, bit.
The bite is the worst, dude.
You know. I got a bump on my back from a horse that bit me, and it's
never
going away. No. People ask me, what's that from? I was like, I got bit by a horse.
Yeah, people don't know.
That thing hurt.
Yeah, they got those real flat teeth. You know, they got such powerful jaws.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that thing tore me up. And so, you know, There's been a lot of times, though, or not a lot of times, but there's been a few times I've been packing elk quarters out on my back,
Like,
wishing I had a friggin' horse or a mule.
I was
Cause,
gonna say even a mini mule.
A mini mule or a llama.
Yeah, llama. Yeah,
know?
people using those alpacas now too.
Alpacas, yeah.
I saw a guy going up the West
goats.
Fork. Yeah, goats. Yeah, take anything really.
You could pack a steak or a backstrap out for you. I don't know how much a goat's gonna haul, but
Yeah, your backpack for you or something. Yeah, I don't know. Get a whole string of them. Give them like 20 pounds each. I don't know if they can handle that, but probably.
A goat?
You think a goat can handle 20 pounds?
I doubt it. But
maybe 10 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I kind of threw the teaser out because I was kind of hoping you'd talk about it. I don't know if you want to. You don't have to. But the one-legged rescue.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you first started telling this, I'll let you go. But like when you first started telling this story, I was like,
we're jumping around quite a bit with my life story, but that's okay. So I was working for the BLM as a park ranger on the Madison River, and so I spent 9 years working for that agency out of the Madison Valley. So I was based in Ennis, and we have a recreation staff out of Ennis, and they're separate from the main office in Dillon. So sort of the redheaded stepsister out there in Ennis with the rec program. So kind of out on an island, but yeah, I spent 9 years helping run that recreation program, and so part of the recreation program over there is the Bear Trap Wilderness Area, and it's one of the first designated BLM wilderness areas in the country. And Lee Metcalf designated that wilderness area, and it's adjacent to the Spanish Peaks and why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden? The wilderness that's all through there. What am I?
I should know this too because I was on the B-Bar-D forever.
I'm just having a brain fart, but it's connected to the Lee Metcalf wilderness and all that whole area. Spanish Peaks, Gallatin Range, Madison.
See, that's where I get confused because, and for folks who are listening, who think you just said Lee Metcalf, but like there's Lee Metcalf Refuge here in the Bitterroot, so like. But it makes my brain stick because initially I was really thrown off because coming from that country and knowing about the Lee Metcalf Wilderness and then also the Lee Metcalf Refuge here, like it threw my brain for a loop and I still like get dyslexic with it,
Yeah, so I think it's probably similar. Lee Metcalf was a pretty important dude.
Yeah,
did a lot of cool things for the agencies, for the environment. So, anyways. Long story short, it's a pretty small wilderness area. The Bear Trap Canyon Wilderness Area I think it's about 8,000 acres. It's basically the Madison River corridor. It's about 8 miles of wilderness river within that canyon. It doesn't really stretch much outside of the river corridor. It's part of it's bordered by the Lee Metcalf Wilderness, which is in like the Gallatin Range, the Spanish Peaks right in there. And the other side would be state land. And the other part that it borders would be the Flying D Ranch, which is one of Ted Turner's ranches.
Yeah.
And so
it's like the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. It stretches from the Madison River to the Gallatin River in Four Corners and back. So if everyone knows that area, it's a huge ranch and
giant.
A lot of elk on that ranch. And so, anyways, getting to this story, we're out on patrol for the day and we're just checking recreation sites, and we cruise up to the Bear Trap Trailhead, and over there it's kind of a unique place. There's only one way in and one way out to that canyon. There's only one trailhead. You can only come in from the bottom unless you're floating the river. You can float the river from the top and go all the way through. But for hiking, you can pretty much only access it from, if you want to access the river corridor, you come in from the bottom, and it's 8 miles in and 8 miles back out. Well, a lot of people like to go up there in the spring and climb up on the rim and get on the Flying D where all the elk are.
Yeah.
And so they're pretty much on Turner's Ranch, and they have, over the years, have increased. It's been increasing the amount of people trespassing and poaching horns. You know, the cost for an elk horn has gone way up. You know, a heavy brown is, I don't know, if it's a full set, maybe 5, 6. That might be the low end.
That might be the low end. Because like I see years ago, like just a decent set was like 400, and so I don't. Because I remember, this guy I knew for a long time was making a pretty good side hustle on it, and it was part of like the fun was like horn hunting, get you out in the mountains and got to figure out where the animals are going in the fall, and then have your little better hunting odds in the fall,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a big business, The Flying D, I think they said they picked up $90,000, $100,000 worth of horns last year.
Makes sense.
And what they do is, because that's a lot of money, they incentivize their employees that work on these ranches to turn the horns in, and that $100,000 is their bonus at the end of the year. So they collect all the horns and put them in a pile, and then they go sell them, and then there's money.
Smart business.
There's multiple ranches that do this. We could go on and on about all the big ranches out there, but this one particular, because I worked with the ranch manager, or the ranch security guard kind of guy. He was always running up and down the border of the fence and the public, and they always have trespass coming from public land, right? So they go up the Bear Trap Canyon, climb the wall, the canyon walls, and get up on top, and that's where the Flying D Ranch is. And so he's always out there trying to catch people, and he's caught a lot of people, and in particular, this one guy has been doing it for years, and it's really hard to catch him,
Yeah, only one guy probably patrolling most of the time.
You could come walking out of the Bear Trap Canyon with a whole pack of horns, but if you never caught them on the private property, you don't really know where they're coming from. We all know there's not a lot of elk sitting down in the canyon. It's not really. They don't just sit down there. They sit up on top and hang out on those big open meadows and private property, right? No one's up there. So anyways, we're up there patrolling one of the trailheads in the morning, and we just run into a couple guys, and they're looking a little shady. And there's a younger guy, pretty scrubby looking, and then another guy is a little older, and he was on a bike. And we're like, well, you can't take a bike into the wilderness. This is a wilderness area. There's no bikes allowed in the wilderness, but you can ride up to the sign, and it's like, border. I don't know, not very far in, a couple 100 yards. I mean, it's really not that far. It's kind of around the corner. So you just take off from the trailhead, and we're like, well, you could just ride your bike up to the trailhead. And he explained to us, he had a prosthetic, and, he's like, oh, we're like, well, just ride up to the trailhead, and you drop your bike at the sign, and then you have to walk in. And we didn't really think anything of it. We just kind of gave him the spiel and see you later, have a good day. So we went on with the rest of our day, and we're out doing whatever, and we've got the truck radio, and it's connected to the Madison County Sheriff's Department, and so you can hear any kind of calls come out. And there was a call for. There was a injured hiker in the Bear Trap Canyon, and me and my coworker just look over at each other, and we look at each other. I'm like, Justin, this has got to be your guy. This has got to be your guy. Yeah. Because he's the one that ended up talking to him and stuff. And I was like, this has got to be the one-legged dude. And we're like, this is crazy. So we heard the call go out, and so we know the area pretty well. It's like Bear Trap Canyon, and so we went, and we heard it's an injured hiker, and they need help, and they need search and rescue. And so we ran back to our office and our shop and got a hypothermia kit, first aid kit, and our backpacks so we could go in there. And we were gonna tie in with search and rescue and EMTs at the trailhead. And so we ended up getting down to the trailhead with one other guy from Madison County Search and Rescue, and he's just a local dude, volunteers. They just show up when they hear the calls, and so he shows up,
and if they're available, right? Because they have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So
this guy shows up, and he's ready to go with his search and rescue pack, and we're with him, and we ended up carrying a backboard up there, like a smaller backboard, and our hypothermia kit and a bunch of first aid kit that he had. And so we get, I don't know, we're a mile or two in, probably 2 miles in, and he's up on the side of the mountain. And so we scramble up there and we get to him. And so there's kind of more to the story, but turns out him and his nephew were hiking up to go horn hunting, and they were headed straight up to the top of the canyon, to the rim basically. And we all know that's going right onto the Flying D. And so
and the Turners,
going on to Turner's Ranch to look for horns. And well, somehow these guys got separated, and so you got one guy with a prosthetic fake leg going up, and then you got a younger guy. Well, the younger guy, I guess, took off and kind of ditched his uncle, and his uncle's climbing up the canyon by himself, and I don't know what he got into, but he got into a bunch of rocks, and was either bouldering up these rocks
with one leg.
With one leg, yeah. And I guess ended up taking a tumble down these rocks, and he cartwheeled down the rocks and piled up at the bottom. Well, during the fall, he hurt his like kind of pelvic ribs area, hip area real bad when he slammed, I guess, when he fell. But he also lost his leg. the fake leg tumbled down as well. So he's up there on the side of the mountain. And this, I think he fell like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And he's up on the side of the cliff by himself after this fall. No way to, he's hurt. He can't move. So he's stuck there. And from what we could tell, he started a fire. This is kind of in the fall. I want to probably say it was September. Oh. Or no, this is horn hunting. So this would have been, it would have been in April because the college kids were back. So I'm getting the wrong time. So it was April, and it was still, might have been, about April, May. Somewhere in there. I know it's still kind of cold, but anyways, the college kids are around. He starts a fire, and he's like trying to do like a warming fire or like a help me fire.
Oh, a signal fire.
Kind of like a signal fire is what he was getting going, because he was hooting and hollering on the side of the mountain and no one could hear him. Well, later that day around 3 or 4 o'clock, a couple of college kids from MSU were walking in to go hang out, fishing, whatever. I don't know. They were just up there, though they heard him hooting and hollering on the side of the mountain for help. So a couple of them scrambled up to him, got to him, and there's no cell service in the canyon itself. You're out of service. And so one of them ran up to the top of the rim to get cell service. So that kid got up there and made the call. I think it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The call came through the radio and said we got an injured hiker in the canyon. And so anyways, we get up there to him, and we're like, no way, this is telling my coworker, I'm like, this is your guy. He's like, this is insane. Like, one-legged man on the side of the mountain. So we help him as best we could, and it was on a really, really steep slope. And Search and Rescue from Madison County had requested mutual aid from Gallatin County. Gallatin County's got a high-angle crew. They've got a helicopter. They have more training and more experience and just more availability for that stuff. And so they call in Gallatin. Well, we're talking, 4, 5, 6 o'clock rolls around by the time Gallatin shows up, and they get there on the ground, and they're like, well, we can't really move this guy down the mountain. It would have put all of us in sort of danger of getting hurt. And so
you don't want to add more victims.
They don't want you don't want to have an incident within an incident, right? We know that that's bad.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So they didn't want to move this guy at all. So like, well, we want the heli to come in. Like, well, maybe Lifeline gets spooled up, and the Lifeline comes and they fly around, and they're like, we can't land down in the canyon. They thought maybe the Lifeline would land down at the bottom, and we would transport him off the mountain, and they were gonna put him in a one-wheel litter and then basically rope the litter down this scree field in his face to get down. And they're like, well, no, that's probably not going to work. And we need another helicopter. We need the short haul. So they're like, Life Flight couldn't really do anything. So Life Flight took off and landed at the parking lot at the trailhead, and maybe another hour later. So we're talking like 7 o'clock. It's probably getting dark around 8:30. Finally, Gallatin County Search and Rescue shows up with their heli and their 2 guys on short haul. So they come in, they fly around, and they go out to the trailhead and they rig their short haul, and they come back in with 2 guys on the line, and we're sitting there helping them, get them all set up. And so they drop those guys off, and helicopter kind of takes off and is just hovering above, while we're packaging them up in their whole short haul sling and all that kind of stuff that they need to bag this guy.
Yeah.
And I think we're talking about 8 o'clock at night. I mean, it's getting dark, and this guy had been on the mountain for probably 10 hours.
Probably pretty cold, too.
It was getting cold.
Yeah, temperature dropped.
We helped him quite a bit when we got there. We had sleeping bag, pad, all that kind of stuff to keep him warm. And so he was starting to go there at that point where shock and all that stuff was catching in. But luckily it just all actually worked out really well. And the short haul came in, and they got him out of there right in time and took him to the trailhead, dropped him off, and put him in Life Flight and took him back to town. And
got some more medical attention.
Yeah. We always joke about the one-legged man that rode a bicycle into the wilderness.
Yeah. And then did you guys
had to get rescued.
And had to get rescued. Yeah. See, don't bring a bike in the wilderness. No, but did you catch his? Did you guys find his leg?
Well, we did find the leg, and like later that afternoon, we're still dealing with the injured guy. His nephew came down, and he didn't quite seem like he was all there. I don't know.
Enhanced, maybe.
Yeah, just who knows what he was on, but just didn't really look like he was all there, and didn't really even grasp the whole situation. We're like, we've been helping your uncle for like 6 hours on the side of the mountain. Where have you been? And he was just up on he like ended up grabbing his uncle's leg and hiking out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And just boogied. Never saw him again. We're like, that was really weird.
That's weird.
And so you never hear about how these stories turn out, but this guy was pretty rough. He was telling us he had some bullet holes in him from a bar fight, and he had lost his leg from whatever reason, and just a rough dude.
Yeah.
And they're, I think, up there try to get some horns to get some money or whatever.
Yeah. Get some more back alley supplements.
Yeah, it was his nephew's longtime poacher on the Flying D, and actually, this was a couple years ago that this story actually had happened, and we kept seeing the nephew over the last couple years out at the trailhead, and we're like, well, we know what he's doing. He's a big horn hunter, and then, like I said, I was working with the ranch manager over there to try to figure out where he's going and where he's at, and
give him a heads up too, probably, huh?
Yeah, and so was it 2 years ago? We were floating through the Bear Trap Canyon, and there's a real popular spot at the Bear Trap Creek, and that's 3 miles in from the bottom, and that's where most people backpack and camp and hang out or just hike in for the day and out. Well, we get in there, and we always check the campsite, try to clean it up, make sure there's nothing out there. Well, we go up there, and back in the bushes, there's a camp set up. I'm like, wait a second. This is crazy. There's a tent. There's the black and yellow Tupperware bins you get from Costco, like the big ones.
Yeah.
There was a couple of those. Garbage bags full of sleeping bags and blankets and clothes and just all this stuff. And I'm like, I think I know whose stuff this is. And the camp had been abandoned. So usually you horn hunt in about, April?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So he'd been going in there in the snow. So he was like sledding all this stuff in with a sled and a frame pack over the snow, I think, and had been setting up out there for a long time. So no one's really going out there in the winter and in the snow. So no one's really saying anything. And if people go out there, they say, oh, there's a camp, I'm going to leave. Yeah. Well, I knew exactly who it was. It was the same guy that we've dealt with year after year. And
persistent.
It's all this crap. I mean, it was 8 or 10 bags of trash So we left it and came back a couple weeks later and said, we're gonna clean this up. Like, this is abandoned camp. It's been here for months.
Yeah.
We know it's abandoned. They're not coming back. Let's clean it up and get it out of here. And so me and the crew ended up cleaning everything up, the old tent, all the crap. I mean, just everything. And it ended up being a lot of stuff. And we took it out of there and it felt really good to clean that up and be like, you know what, maybe I'm getting the last laugh here.
Yeah.
None of this stuff was worth saving, and the policy, you got to keep stuff around for a certain amount of time if you collect it from somebody just in case they come back looking for it,
Oh.
So if you, clean up bum camps, whatever you want to call them, abandoned camps, technically you're supposed to kind of keep that property around for a certain amount of time. So when someone comes back looking for basically their trash,
Yeah.
we still got it. So we kept it in one of our storages for the summer and finally ended up throwing it all away once it got past that time. But
No one's coming back to get that.
No one's coming back. Yeah. But anyways, that whole story, just we always laugh about how we had to help rescue a one-legged man that rode his bike into the wilderness.
Yeah, that's where you had me the other day when you told me the story. I was like, what? And then like it's an interesting story, just like how it all came together and the amount of work that went in, and that for folks listening, like a typical rescue operation does take a lot, because you got to figure out. It's not like in the movies. There's like a Stallone movie back in the day, like Cliffhanger or something. It's like people are just on standby waiting to rescue people. Was that supposed to be in the Tetons or something? Did you ever see that Cliffhanger Stallone movie?
Yeah, I don't like to watch that because there's a lot of stuff in that's not real.
Yeah.
In climbing.
But like
the bolt that broke and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
his girlfriend's
doesn't really happen, and it's it's just over the top. But yeah.
Yeah, because in that movie wasn't it like there's like these rescue rangers that are like hanging around the Tetons, and like when people get stuck on the hillside, then they go rescue them. Like they're just on standby, kind of. It's like that's not how the national parks or anybody works. Like
not quite like that.
No.
That was Hollywood.
Yeah, totally. So
which I know a few folks that are on they're climbing rangers in the Tetons.
Yeah,
and they're based out of Jenny Lake, and those dudes are some of the highest level badasses you can get. The amount of the amount of calls they get up there on the Grand are insane.
Oh, so maybe I'm wrong. So those guys are kind of just on standby for that stuff then, huh?
A lot of them are, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they've got search and rescue, but the park rangers, especially the climbing rangers, that's pretty much their job.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, because they know the mountain and they're trained for that.
Yeah, yep. That's really good. I mean, they probably save a lot of lives because people get in over their heads or maybe failure or whatever.
Yeah, I think the Grand Teton, it's one of the most used climbing mountains in the north, in North America.
Yeah.
The visitor numbers are huge. Thousands of people getting guided up that thing. Like it's a rodeo if you're ever up there in the peak summer.
Oh, I bet,
just
man.
People after people, but really the hard work is pulling the bodies off of the mountain.
Oh, after the fact, like after they expired.
Yeah, I mean, people fall up there all the time, and you don't live from a fall up there. And yeah, there's some crazy stories. I've got a couple of friends that had to get help on the mountain. I don't know how many years ago this was now, probably 10 years ago or something like that. A group of people were climbing up there, and weather can come in really fast in the Tetons, and afternoon thunder and lightning can just happen.
Yeah.
And they're up there climbing, and they're on the summit, and a really nasty lightning storm comes in and just starts pounding the mountain, and they're on top. There's really no cover on the top of that peak, and there was multiple groups on the mountain at the time. Well, long story short, my two friends, they were hit by lightning.
Oh.
They both got hit and were injured pretty severely on the mountain.
Brutal.
One of them, when the lightning hit her, it exited out her hand, and she lost her pinky and one of her other fingers.
Jeez,
right there. Like it kind of
like instantly just
almost
blows it
blew
off.
her
Right?
finger off.
Yeah, I've heard that like happen with toes too.
And she was hurt pretty bad. And then her boyfriend He had internal lung damage, and he was pretty burned. And that's just my two friends. You know, there was 19 or 20 people on the mountain at the time, and it turns out this particular day turned out to be one of the biggest rescue on the mountain it's ever had, with 20 people hurt, multiple people, multiple groups hit by lightning, and actually one fatality on the mountain during the time where everyone's trying to run off the mountain. And there's a pretty tricky spot to get down. You actually have to rappel down this section unless you're pretty good at down climbing some pretty steep, loose 5th class. You can down climb and get to this ledge and then traverse across something that's called the crawl. And that's the standard route, but I guess some people were trying to get off the mountain real quick, got hit by lightning, and one of the guys ended up getting hit or tumbled or blown off the mountain, and he fell into the black ice couloir, and that's like a couple thousand feet down, you know. So he didn't live, but during the rescue, I guess Harrison Ford lives down there, and he's a helicopter pilot.
Oh yeah.
Him and his helicopter pilot jumped in his personal craft and went up there and started helping the Park Service and search and rescue haul people off the mountain.
Jeez,
so there's a story out there of Harrison Ford helping on one of the largest rescues on the Grand that's ever happened.
Yeah, I always heard about that as a kid, of him, or maybe not as a kid, but just a couple years ago, I guess, of him helping out. Because what was that, like 10 years ago, you said?
Yeah, I want to say it's probably at least 10 years ago now, yeah, because I hadn't gone back to college yet, so it's like 2010 or 2011 or something, somewhere in there when that happened to these folks. Yeah,
because I kind of remember the time frame, because I was fighting fire at Whitehall at the time. Man, yeah, good dude.
But Harrison Ford's like, he's a pilot, you know, he flies, and he lives in Jackson and stuff. So
yeah, not very far.
But anyways,
yeah, that's cool though. I thought that movie was just stretching it. You know, the cliffhanger movie that, because part of it, because I was like, man, that'd be my dream job, you know, to be like old, sly old Sylvester Stallone, and just be climbing around and rescuing folks. But I bet like it'd be brutal, because like you said, a lot of it's recovering bodies.
Yeah, there's two groups of rescue folks that I can think of, which would be YOSAR, which is Yosemite Search and Rescue. They're top notch with that kind of stuff, because that's the big wall mecca of North America is Yosemite, so they have to be super technical to make those rescues. And so
in this probably small period of time too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's just a short amount of time when you're trying to get someone off a mountain, but a short haul off of a 2,000 or 3,000 foot face is a lot different than the short haul that I participated in, So there's some really tricky stuff that they have to get, because, those helicopters can't get that close to the wall. So how do you get a line down? There's all these crazy tricks that they can do, and like they grab these big long poles and they use a pole to grab it in, or a rope or something like that, like a grab line or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Yosemite Search and Rescue, and then the Teton Search and Rescue. Those two groups are some of the highest level, and I'd say Gallatin County as well. Those groups right there, those three. And I know there's more groups out there and rescue places, but from what I can think of, those are the three that I'm mostly aware of, and they're top notch dudes. I mean, this guy that I know, he is a professional ski patroller at Big Sky for a long time, and he started moving into the more professional world, and not to say that ski patrolling isn't, it's actually turned into quite a career for people. Big Sky even unionized their ski patrol, but he went down, he got a job with the Park Service as a climbing ranger in the Tetons, and you have to be top notch alpinist to even get on this crew. You have to have a resume of rock climbing, mountaineering, ice climbing, like backcountry skiing. Like, you just have to have it all. You have to be basically badass at it to get on this crew,
Jeez.
Which is crazy. Like, these guys are so highly skilled. I think they start off at like GS7s.
Really?
Not that high.
No.
And
especially in that
area.
They
do some really cool stuff, and the stories for him, I'm sure, have just added up over and over and over the years.
I bet, because for folks who don't really get it, like understand like the GS system, like GS7s, If you're on fire, it's not bad because you're getting overtime pay. But as a GS7 who's not getting overtime pay and living in a expensive area, I guess, is like Jackson, area, Grand Teton area.
Yeah.
GS7 doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, he's down there in Jenny Lake and at the ranger station. So in the summer, there's some, when you go to those cool places, there's some benefits to the job, possibly cheap housing at a ranger station or something like that, where you're right there in the mix of the whole thing. But you're in employee housing, government housing. It's not your own. You don't really get to do your own thing. You're probably around other people and stuff. But
yeah, sharing a house or something.
Yeah, but these guys, man, it's top notch, and you just hope that those are the guys that show up to help you when you need help.
Yeah, when you're in a bad situation, right?
Yeah. So if you're ever trying to support anything, search and rescue in your local area, definitely give them some money.
or volunteer.
All volunteer. At least down there, like some of those groups, those bigger ones, those guys are paid, but at least the climbing rangers and stuff in the park they're National Park Service employees.
Oh, yeah.
But some of these other groups, the Gallatin County Search and Rescue, Teton County Search and Rescue, those guys are all volunteer, and they need money to be able to
get the equipment,
spin those helicopters, and get the equipment and everything, and the training and stuff. So if you ever have a chance to donate to those places, go spend some money.
Yeah, if you're looking for a good cause,
because you never know when you're gonna need it.
Yeah, man, and you're kind of in a way you're helping save other lives too, by like putting some money towards a good cause like that, just helping buy the equipment and getting the good equipment so people can get out there and help folks.
Totally.
Yeah, but
yeah, man.
We're kind of jumping around like you said, but I was gonna forget the one-legged story, so that's why I wanted to say that one. But
that was a good one.
Yeah, to tag onto your nature deficit disorder thing. I think this tags in pretty good from what we talked to before, but that's why you started your own kind of side company business with the 406 Mountain Yeti.
Yep. So 406 Mountain Yeti kind of came out of this whole going back to college and getting my recreation management degree, and the nature deficit disorder was just sort of this like trigger for me to try to figure out a way to connect people to nature.
Yeah.
And that's what Mountain Yeti's motto is find your next adventure, connect to nature. And so it really was just an idea and a philosophy to just talk to kids, talk to people about outdoorsy stuff, and I kind of, there was just a time there where I wanted to try to give back as much as I could. And so what I did was I needed something when you start talking to people about outdoorsy stuff and why we like it and why we spend time outside, I needed like a tangible thing to give people, like a sticker or something, a T-shirt, right? And so Mountain Yeti is actually like a face mask, like a buff, right? It's a fleece face mask basically, and I call it a Mountain Yeti because you want to harness the nature of this Mountain Yeti and get outside and use that power, that strength of the Mountain Yeti to be successful in the outdoors, because staying warm in the outdoors is really important. So like you lose a lot of heat through the back of your neck, and so if you can protect the back of your neck, you'll retain like a lot of your heat through your head and the back of your neck. And so the fleece neck warmer, which I call a Mountain Yeti, is specific to Western Montana. That's where the Mountain Yeti cuts its teeth.
Yeah, like the myth of the Mountain Yeti, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, West Coast, I think it's like Sasquatch,
maybe,
right?
Yeah, maybe not myth, I mean, who knows?
Oh, no, it's not a myth. It's just nobody knows where they're at.
Yeah, just got to find them.
You just got to find them. And so West Coast is like the Sasquatch, and down in the south I think is the Bigfoot, and then over in the Himalaya is sort of the snow Yeti, right? So they're all over the world, but a Mountain Yeti happens to be born and raised here in Western Montana.
Yeah.
But all that stuff is kind of just a play on this outdoor connection, and so I
And having a symbol, to kind of represent it too, I think is big. Something that people can remember. like, oh,
Yep.
Mountain Yeti. And then have a little backstory. Too.
Yeah, I got a bunch of swag in my car that I was gonna bring, but show you what some of the logos look like over the years. It's changed a little bit, but
Oh, cool.
the philosophy hasn't changed. It's just get outside, connect to nature, and this story about a mountain yeti is just goes along with it, and that can captivate the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
And people laugh and stuff, and
then younger kids,
yeah, and then
cool.
I'll hand them a sticker that's got a Yeti on it, and I hand out the face masks, and I've done some screen printing on them, and screen print Montana logos on them, or screen print a mustache on them, or a beard. So I would go and spend a lot of time at my local hill up at Lost Trail, and I work with their marketing and their events guy up there, and so I would help them with their events and just volunteer my time, and I'd give them a bunch of face masks and T-shirts and hats and stickers to give away to kids and stuff. And what I thought was cool over the years, I would go up there and I would see, I still am seeing, I've kind of cut back a little bit of it, but just because life was catching up with me. But
yeah,
I would see these kids wearing these neck warmers that I've made over the years, and I thought that was really cool because they're still holding up. So I would buy the fabric from Joann's. I bought a sewing machine.
Oh, really?
I learned to sew, so I would cut, sew, package, screen print, all on my own.
Dude,
yeah, so
that's
kind of
cool.
little shop in my garage, and just to spend time doing that. And I really didn't make a lot of money off of it. I would get like a free ski pass for the day and go help out with their events and stuff. And really, it was just like a way to talk to people.
Yeah.
And just the backstory of the mountain yeti, and connecting to nature, and just getting outside, and not just giving up, and trying to find those avenues to be outside more. And it's like, oh well, I'm going to another event, and so now I've done events at Lost Trail and at Showdown, and I've got some connections there. So my friends that I went to college with are now like, mountain managers and doing lots of stuff in the ski industry. So having those connections has helped me out a lot too. And so sort of grow the business per se. And really it was just an idea to connect people to nature and then just talk about it. If it's a story, or if it's say, hey, get outside.
Yeah,
well, do something fun. Tell me a story.
Yeah, man. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, like that's part of the reason why I wanted you on, is because it's all your adventures, and then especially with that brand too. If you're trying to spread the just the awareness and the fun and the adventures of the outdoors, and kind of funnel it through your brand to help like I said, put a symbol to it, and maybe leaving a little reminder, because during the summer, you may not be looking at your buff, but then in the winter, it's like you get all your ski gear together, and there that sucker is. You're like, yeah, I gotta remember to stay outside, and get after it, and not let the weather keep you from going out and having a new adventure, and also like the adventures you've had. I mean, we talked about the 3 Peaks and El Cap.
Well, it's
Como Peaks.
So there's the Como Peaks, and this route that I did quite a few years ago. It's called the Bitterroot Grand Traverse, or recently it's been called the High Fives route. And I've got a friend, Nate Bender. There's probably some people listening on this podcast that know who Nate Bender is. He's a long distance mountain runner, and he's coaches running and stuff, and he's done a lot of these fastest known times on peaks and stuff like that. And more recently he nailed down what he's calling the High Fives route, which prior to that it's been called the Bitterroot Grand Traverse, and that's down in the Bitters. They're behind Como, Lake Como, and so there's 5 peaks in this kind of cirque up there, and El Capitan, which is the one in the very back, and then coming to the south and back towards the east between Como and Tin Cup, there's the Lonesome Bachelor, and then the 3 Sisters, which are the Como Peaks. And so total there's 5 peaks there. And Nate, I think, did it in like 6.5 hours.
Dude, that's
and
a
so,
lot.
he's this mountain runner, and that's probably car to car.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a long ways, but
Dude, that's
So I think
impressive.
it took me and my buddy, you know, we weren't doing any fastest known time. We were just trying to survive. But we did basically 2 days, 1 night on the mountain. And we hiked into Little Rock Lake and we camped there the first night in the evening. And so I guess it was kind of 2 nights, 2 days. But that first day doesn't really count, I guess. It's a couple miles into the lake. And so,
that later start.
Yeah, so then we start super early the next day. And so that day you get up, and to get up to the top of El Cap, you have to climb up this snow gully. And this is in July. We're talking July, mid-July. There's still snow in there. And it's kind of tucked in, but that's sort of the access. So you climb up this little snow gully, and then you get to the ridge, and then you can just run up to the summit. And then so we hit that first, and then over to the Lonesome Bachelor, and we were able to get up that. Had a little bit of climbing gear with us for roping up on that one because I knew some friends that had done it before, and they said that one was a little technical and they needed some help getting off of it just to be safe. And so we brought some climbing gear up there, a short rope and some gear to protect and rappel off of that one. So for that first day, we got those two out of the way, and then we camped down below the summit of the Lonesome Bachelor. And it was kind of crazy. That afternoon, a huge lightning storm came through. It was actually the same time the Derby Rodeo was going on. Oh. And we were able to get down to this meadow off the high alpine and kind of get out of the way, get our tent up and hunker down right when this storm just started hitting. Lightning's hitting the peaks everywhere, and then it rolls through the valley, and it's slamming down. And turns out that same storm hit the Derby Rodeo grounds and zapped a couple people.
Oh, man.
So, like, actually hurt some people. I don't know. This was quite a few years ago. Must have been 2010 or maybe before even. I don't know.
Dude, close call for you guys.
Yeah,
then,
it was
man.
kind of a close call. You don't want to be on those peaks really afternoon, right? When you're a mountain climber, you don't really want to be on those peaks.
Because that's when the storms
in the afternoon,
bubbling
right?
up, right?
Like the goal for most alpine climbers is to be on the summit before noon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a rule, kind of one of those rules that you should follow. You just want to be starting early, and that's sort of the turnaround time is if you're not to the peak by noon or a little after, you're having a really high chance you're going to get hit with afternoon storms.
Yeah, even if it's not like anything too crazy, that's usually when the wind's kicking up, and the winds could be crazy, could be gnarly, and you're fighting that, and that could be dangerous too. Yep. That makes sense, though. I never, all the people I've known have done more like the alpine climbing and summit bagging, or peak bagging. Yep. They, like my little brother did, is it Granite, right? Granite's the big one in Montana.
Yeah,
Granite
that's the tallest peak in Montana. It's
like
12,800.
Yeah, which you figured Montana's got all these mountains. In my head, I thought it'd be at least 14 or something.
You're hoping it would, but no, but it's just like the third tallest or something, but it's like one of the hardest.
Yeah,
it's like the second or third hardest peak to climb out of all of them, even though it's not one of the taller ones. I think it's the top. It's in the top 5 for tallest, but it's
really?
Like the second or third hardest to climb.
Oh, geez. In the lower 48.
Yeah. Just because it's a long ways to the top.
Yeah, because the trail.
Long ways.
Yeah, because the trailhead starts so low, right?
And it's fairly technical for a high high summit. It's one of the more technical that you need. I mean, the Grand is probably the most technical to get up, and then
is the Grand taller?
Grand is 1,000 feet taller, and I was hoping the Grand was 14,000, but it's only 13.8.
Oh man,
13.9, something like that. So yeah, I haven't cracked the 14.
I was gonna ask, haven't busted that ceiling. What's the closest 14er to us? Do you know?
The closest 14er to us is probably somewhere in Colorado.
Yeah,
because they've got
quite a few. Don't
Colorado and I think Mount Whitney in California.
Yeah, because that's where it's really big, right? And Colorado is like doing peak bagging.
Which I don't know, like Mount Rainier might be. I don't think it is, but Mount Rainier might be up there too. But
I think it's got to be. It just seems so tall, and it's always got like snow on it. So I figured it was up there.
Although it might not be because it looks tall because it's at sea level, right? So
good point.
Right, so I don't know exactly what the Cascades are, but We need our fact checker in the background checking all these.
I know, dude. One of these days, man. Like if this podcast ever starts getting some, some kind of like funding or something, then
Yeah.
I'll have to
We'll
get
get
my
the old third party.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, back to that Bitterroot Grand Traverse. So, yeah, we're kind of getting hit by this lightning storm, and that passes and everything, and we're just up in the mountains. It's just a beautiful place to be. And so, but we're kind of looking at what we had to do for the next. Oh, yeah. So Rainier is 14.4, so I guess that would be the closest peak to us. Maybe Colorado's just as close, but yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
So either Washington or Colorado, or you're going to get your 14s. But Montana, nothing higher than Granite, 12.8, and then actually the Grand Teton is not the highest peak in Wyoming. Gannett Mountain is taller by like 100 feet or something like that.
Really?
And that one's really hard to get to. That one's like way back in, I think it's in the Wind Rivers.
Oh, really?
It's like way back in there, and I want to say it's like 15 or 20 miles one way to get to it, and it's a hard one to do. So I thought I was climbing the tallest peak in Wyoming when I climbed the Grand, but it turns out it's not.
Dang it.
So I got one.
I never even heard of that, but that's good though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll stop interrupting.
Well,
you.
anyways, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But so back to the Bitterroot Grand Traverse, which is it's an awesome alpine climb, and it's impressive what Nate did to be able to run that and climb those peaks and get back to the trailhead in like 6 hours. We took a couple days to do it, and that was our intent. But so we're looking at the back of the Three Sisters, or the Como Peaks. They're all right next to each other, and they're all about the same height.
Yeah.
And so we're on the back side of them, which would have been the south side of them, and you kind of come up that way, and you hit the first one and the second one, and we're kind of climbing on this lower section of the ridge. We hit the peak, come down, and you kind of got to go down and then back up the other one, and we get to this section where we're scrambling through some trees and some rocks, and we're looking up. We're like, oh, there's like, looks like a notch here. We'll just boulder up this, and it's like 20 feet up this little notch, and it's a little couple bouldering moves to get up to this ledge and then keep going on the ridge. And so we're sitting there queuing up to do this little boulder move, and I look over, and there's an old ice axe sitting there, just leaned up against the cliff. We're like, whoa, look at that cool thing. And if you read the guidebooks, it says bring an ice axe to get up the snow couloir on old El Capitan. And so people have done this route before. This isn't like we're doing a first ascent or anything, and so this is a known thing. But there's a lot of old school climbers in this valley, in the Bitterroot Valley, and those guys, who knows who was back there, but they've been doing this stuff for the 60s and 70s. They were pioneering this stuff way before all the cool kids showed up in the 80s and 90s to start documenting the stuff that, I did this. It's like, how do you know you were the first person to do it? Because we're out there climbing, and we see this ice axe, wooden shaft, straight. It's just an old ice axe, and like just sitting there, like that's sort of rotting away. The wood had started rotting away, and the metal axe head was still there, and part of the handle, and it was still there. And so we're like, dude, that's really cool. Like, let's pack that out and like keep that, And so my buddy, he might have actually found it, and I think he might have saw it first, because he ended up with it. Because usually, the first person to find something gets to keep it.
Yeah,
so he ended up with it, which I really wanted it pretty bad, because it was just like a cool thing. But
it'd be great to have.
But we took that off the mountain, and it's just like, I always remember finding that thing. It's just really cool. You're like, holy cow! Like someone was right, because we're just thinking, there's never been anyone on this spot. They went around and went up some other way, and then all of a sudden we find this ice axe. Like, I can't believe someone else was actually probably trying to climb this little boulder to get up on the ridge, but it makes sense when you're doing the route. You're kind of following the cliff, and there's like an opening in it, and so it just makes sense that that's where the route goes to get up on top. And so we're just kind of, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you find something of the past, and you're like, that's really freaking cool.
That's so cool, man.
Anyways, we finished that in 5 peaks, 2 days, all off trail mostly, besides the first start. And the last little bit coming off the last Como Peak is just brutal. Tons and tons of cliffs that you have to just navigate around, all off trail. And so when you're wore out at the end of a trip, you're coming down. It's a grind.
And like,
you hate it. You hate it at the moment. Like it's just sucks.
Yeah.
And you're hating it, but then when you accomplish something like that, and at the end of your trip, as much pain and suffering as you went through, it turns out that's what you're going for. Kind of going on those trips for that pain and suffering, and at the time it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But when you're done with it and talking about some of these things now, it was such a fantastic time that's why you do these kind of things, is honestly for that pain and suffering in a way. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, but
it is, man.
Some people don't want to go through that pain and suffering. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
There's a lot when you're in the mountains or you're outside. It can be some really uncomfortable situations, and that might be why people don't spend as much time outside. They don't like to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally, man. And like the phrase I've been hearing a lot lately with folks is, "There's not bad weather. There's only bad clothing."
Right.
And that applies, I think, so much now, and it's going to in the future. It's going to keep getting better. But the technology we have now, I mean, even just like Sitka and Kuiu and some of the hunting brands are so lightweight, so warm and waterproof, like and flexible. Like it's more of these athletic hunting gear, which, Patagonia and Arc'teryx and North Face and everybody else, Mountain Harbor, all the other brands that are doing stuff are, building more athletic fit, more like supporting comfortable clothing, and like smart wool socks, darn tough, anything merino wool, really, all those brands are building a lot better products. It's like the guy who was carrying the ice axe, whatever he was wearing was, good for the day, probably mostly wool, itchy wool, but
Dude, that was crazy. There's a fox just shot past the window behind you.
No.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Which way to go?
He shot to
This
the
way?
right, but yeah. I'm looking out the window here, the podcast trailer, and a little fox just ran by, which was pretty
That's
cool.
cool, man. That's a
Yeah.
good sign, hey?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Talk
dude.
about that gear. That guy's got the right gear.
Yeah, man. Old fox, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about
that's
that
cool.
old school gear, Yeah, those folks. Wool socks, leather boots, wool pants, who knows what they had.
Yeah, for socks, right? Yeah,
Like
wool socks probably at least,
leather
which is nice.
coat or whatever, who knows, but so yeah, things have came a long ways, even from when I was buying gear.
Yeah, same.
When I was in
first got
my
fired.
heyday of buying gear. I haven't bought a lot of stuff in the last 10 years or so, spending money on the old kiddo, but
Yeah.
here and there replace things out. I tend to wear things as long and as much as possible before I just buy something new.
Yeah.
You're wearing this tore up jacket, and then finally all right, it's not working anymore. I got to get something new.
Yeah,
But
because that's kind of the problem. It gets packed down a little bit, like the down jackets and stuff. Like it isn't quite holding up to the weather. And even like you probably have some old school like weatherproof. That like weatherproof kind of somewhat waterproof material. It's like a lot of these like windbreaker kind of jackets were made of them. Like Mountain Harbor had a bunch back in the early 2000s. And I remember my first one was awesome. And now you can feel a little bit of wind coming through it now. It's still great. It's still holding up. It's like
wind stopper they used to make, and it wears out over time. They're just like layers that break down with anything, and it's just over time
stretching
I got a good story about a coat.
What's the story you got?
Those puffy coats, they'll roll up into like a ball. Basically, they kind of fold up into themselves and zip themselves into like a little pillow almost.
Yeah, you can stuff them in its own pocket.
Yeah, well, I was out on this backcountry tour with a buddy, and we're climbing this peak to go ski it, and it's midwinter, maybe towards the end of the winter, but it's still really, really cold out. And you need those layers, right? Well, you're touring up. You don't need a down jacket, right? You need your down jacket for the downtime and just staying warm when you're on the summit or something like that, or hanging out in camp. And so we're climbing up this peak, and we get up on the ridge, and we're climbing. We're really close to the summit, and all right, well, let's stop and take a little break here, catch our breath, get some water. And I open up my pack on the side of this face, and I had that puffy balled up in this ball, basically. And I rip open my pack, and I'm kind of fatigued, and I'm not thinking, and I'm like, rip open my pack, and all of a sudden, I'm on this pretty steep slope. That jacket flops out of my pack, and it's like a basketball just starts rolling down the mountain. And I'm like, oh, crap, and I like kind of made a move for it. And I wasn't going to like fall off this cliff to grab it or go down this. So it just starts going. And I'm like, fall over, like, stop.
Yeah.
No, didn't stop. This coat, this is a sweet down jacket, like 800 fill down jacket, puffy jacket, is cartwheeling down this face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop, come on, stop. Never stopped. This thing rolled probably 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet down this face, down this gully, and just kept going. And I'm like, it's gone.
Yeah, bye.
And it's like, it's totally opposite of the way we're going. I'm not going to spend an hour going down there and getting it. I'm like, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, that is going to make a really awesome squirrel's nest.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, sacrifice that down jacket to the squirrels.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was disappointing watching that thing just roll and roll
just
and roll
heartbreaking.
and roll down this mountain. It was like, and it actually needed it at the end of that trip. We climbed this peak and we skied down this couloir. It was just pretty nasty entrance to this couloir, and we get in it. You know, we're shoveling the cornice away to get in it, and you're like looking down and you're like, holy cow, this is pretty gnarly. And we ended up accomplishing our goal and getting down this couloir and heading out. And the tour back to the car was at night, and it was getting cold. You know, I mean, it was pretty brutal. It was pushing 0, I think, towards the end of the night, and I'm like really wishing I had that jacket.
Dude, I bet, man.
And it's gone.
Never did
seen it again.
Oh, I was hoping this was gonna have a happy ending where you're like,
no, not a good ending to that story.
No.
But I'll never forget watching that jacket just kind of ping pong ball down this face, going,
oh,
it's gone.
Yeah, goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Luckily,
tough,
I got
dude.
a good deal on it, so it didn't really set me back too much. But man, it was heartbreaking, and
Especially
it was
when it's a piece of gear you're never gonna use.
yeah, luckily nothing like came of it, because I've heard these stories about people climbing on like bigger peaks and stuff, and if you lose like a glove or something, your whole hand's gone.
Yeah,
people have lost gloves on Everest or lost a crampon or something. They can't go anywhere, and it can be a fatal mistake.
Yeah, dude.
So
it's amazing how much gear, like every piece of gear, is important on those big trips.
Yep.
Like you said, I mean, like Everest and all those big, summits are crucial. But even like you said, like even on a smaller trip like that, like if something happens and you end up getting stranded for a minute, like you lose that one layer, man. That could either make for a really uncomfortable time or that's the last time you have on Earth.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that wasn't. Got a good funny story, I guess, to tell. But
just a heartbreaking story of watching a sweet jacket leave you forever.
Yeah, it's like, there it goes. And
goodbye.
Please stop. No, it's gone. So, anyways.
Yeah, well, shoot, I really appreciate you coming out, dude.
Yeah,
man. And I think we could do this for hours, but I
think
rolling.
we could. Yeah, that's cool, man. Thanks for having me on. And I know we were gonna I was thinking we might talk about some other stuff, but maybe that's a different day.
I think we could throw a little teaser out there if you want for the next one, like talk about Teddy Roosevelt, right?
Yeah, we're kind of brainstorming on stuff, with this rec management theme, because that's what we're in. I'm in the business of recreation management, and really was thinking we would start with that and just trickle down from there. But it sort of got more into my personal life a little bit. But
yeah, because I wanted
Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, because I wanted to tell your story, give you a little background, so like listeners can kind of figure out like that, where you come from for like a lot of the adventure stories.
I
like
gotcha.
Yeah, I grew up in the woods and stuff. So like, yeah, and I knew it was gonna be a bit. So I don't know. I guess I thought we'd get to Teddy Roosevelt, but there's a lot there, man. I think all the stories are amazing. So I wanted the listeners to be able to hear some of that. And
Totally. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, even just like throwing out like Lee Metcalf and that kind of stuff, which ties into some of the work that I've done and stuff. But
and being a dad and getting your daughter involved, and like this new generation and Mountain Yeti and stuff, it's important.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to coming back. Maybe talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, like I said, Teddy Roosevelt, man, and that 11,000.
That's wild, yeah, and that's a whole nother deal. But man, he was a crazy guy, like youngest president ever. I mean, we're talking 120 years ago. This guy was 1900s is when he was a president, and sort of making his way out west. But that's a whole nother podcast talking about old Teddy Roosevelt and some of the things he did. And that whole expedition he did to Africa for the Smithsonian is kind of what you're talking about there.
So I forgot to throw that teaser out there. And geez, like him. Yeah, we could keep going because there's like a South America trip that he almost died on or something in his later years. I mean, the guy was just an animal.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. We talk about gear.
Yeah.
So, maybe we'll have to explore that.
Yeah, definitely, man. We'll do a little deeper dive on Teddy Roosevelt and recreation, all that stuff. But
cool. Look forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah. Where could people grab, like, if they want to support your
Well, if anyone's out there listening to me, 406 Mountain Yeti on Instagram is where I'm at. So at 406 Mountain Yeti is where I'm at, and you can find me on the slopes in the winter.
Yeah, can people get some gear if they want to?
You just
support
message through Instagram is sort of my way to go. I used to do Facebook, but they started charging for everything, and but Instagram just sort of the easiest way to connect through social media if anyone wants a hat or a shirt. So
support a good cause.
Thanks for the plug. Yeah,
no problem. I appreciate you coming on, and thanks to everybody who's listening and who've been following me on this journey. It's a pretty cool one, and we're gonna keep it rolling. So
yeah, man, find your next adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody.